World's largest Jello pool. Squirrel maze. I've seen that one. Testing if sharks can smell a drop of blood. And he has so many. How to survive a grenade blast. Octopus versus... I've seen that one. Measuring how much pee is in your pool. Egg drop from space. Does he have that? Egg drop from space! Wait, this sounds...
And this is an egg.
Wait, is this... Wait, he does so many cool things. Your warder, thanks for 16 months.
This is space,
egg.
And this is an egg, moments before I attempted the world's highest egg drop. Now in an egg drop competition, in case you never had the chance to do it yourself in school, the goal is to build a contraption that can protect a raw egg from breaking when dropped from the tallest height possible.
Cool.
So my original plan was to drop an egg in a contraption I built from the world's tallest building. But humans are always building taller buildings, so if I really wanted to future-proof this record, I realized I would need to go all the way to the top and straight to outer space. And when I started on this journey 3 years ago, I knew if I could draw on my experience of landing stuff on other planets, I would be guaranteed the record.
Yeah, we did this on Top Streamer.
This would be the most physically, financially, and mentally draining video I would ever attempt. But first, let me just explain what I was thinking. The plan was to clamp an egg to the front of a rocket, then attach that rocket to a weather balloon and take it up to space. Once there, the weather balloon would release it, and just by using gravity only, the rocket would eventually accelerate past Mach 1, breaking the speed of sound, and then it would autonomously adjust the forefins on the back to steer.
Are you allowed to do that? Like, can you just send a rocket to space?
Ground, it would release the egg, which would free fall onto a mattress that we'd placed on the ground. And that all seemed pretty straightforward. So like any good engineer,
stop him? I don't know. The government.
Steps, starting first with calculating
no one finds
the
out.
velocity of an egg. And by terminal velocity, I mean that any object, including humans, have a maximum speed
would the egg cook
once the force of Earth pulling you
from
towards
the heat?
It balances with the pushback force from bumping into more and more air molecules as you start to fall faster.
And the pressure.
For humans, that max speed is about 120 miles per hour, and after doing some simple math for an egg, it tops out at 75 miles per hour. So to make sure the egg wouldn't break if we dropped it onto a mattress at its terminal velocity, we ran our first test. And since we couldn't find a tall enough building whose lawyers would agree to let us hurl an egg off the side and onto a mattress, we had to improvise a bit.
Oh!
83.
Yes! That's the egg? No cracks. So our mattress will protect an egg even if it's traveling faster than its terminal velocity. That's a good start.
Awesome.
The next step in our DIY space program was to head back to my friends in the small farming town of Gridley, California, which is the place where we broke the elephant toothpaste world record, where the plan was to set out a target mattress for the egg to land on in the middle of a field, with a little bit of margin built in just in case.
All right, so we've got the smoke charge back here so that as we're like coming down from the sky, we want to be able to pick it out. This is the computer, here's the fins.
This, by the way, is Joe, and he has a fascinating channel called BPS Space. And what makes him especially cool is he didn't go to school for any kind of engineering degree. He's all self-taught and recently even landed a launched rocket SpaceX style after 7 years of trying. Joe was in charge of tracking and guiding the rocket to the mattress using these movable tail fins, whereas I was in charge of the payload. In other words, how we would keep the egg from freezing on the way up in a little oven with heaters which would break away before we dropped, along with the mechanisms to release the egg itself. Release the egg! And the purpose of this first trip to Gridley was a flight characterization test. Basically, before we spent all the time and money taking the balloon all the way up to space, we were here just to do a low altitude test at 10,000 feet, just to prove to
only
ourselves
10,000
we could steer
feet.
the rocket using the fins.
We're setting all sorts of world records out here. World's largest mattress, fastest egg, tallest egg drop. What could possibly go wrong? Besides like 4,000 things.
And so with everything more or less in place and ready to go, all we needed now was an official egg, which thankfully Gridley has in abundance.
I'm sorry.
Yo, those are some cute chickens. Why are they fluffy and fat?
Okay. Oh, no. Hey.
Oh, they don't like that.
Precious egg.
In the history of our universe, this is the first chicken that's ever laid an egg that will go faster than the speed of sound. Supersonic. Mach 1.
Yo, Beanie, 8 months.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm leaving.
What? The chicken must be so
The next
honored.
morning we got up at 4 a.m. when the winds would be the most calm to run through all our final pre-launch preparations,
Loading up our lovely egg.
including the last-minute decision to add a metallic streamer to the back of the rocket to make it easier to visually track.
We've got redundancy all over the place here. We've got redundant leads,
Hell
redundant
yeah.
igniters. Mark has 2 servos on the fairing. No dumb failures.
And that's exactly when we had our first dumb failure.
Buy a chicken instead of a cat?
The GPS is mad.
We
No.
gotta scrub the launch.
Well-
we were just walking back.
But then I could have
and it
unlimited
pooped it out.
eggs if
And
I got a
scrubbing the
chicken.
launch meant we
I
unfortunately
could eat an egg every
had to
day.
release all the helium out of the balloon, which is an opportunity I'm not gonna let just pass on by.
Hello. Wow, that's so cool. Oh my
And back at home base, we ran some tests that confirmed our hypothesis that since the GPS unit was right at the back of the rocket,
It's
the
not gonna
last-minute
lay an egg
addition of
every
the
day?
metallic streamer was interfering with
Wait,
the
they
GPS
don't lay
signal,
eggs every
and that messed
day?
up the rocket's math in calculating its speed, so it thought it
Yeah,
was
why
time
do they
to
bring
release the
one egg?
So early the next morning, we were back at it with a few modifications.
Okay, if
the
you
most
have one
important being
chicken,
swapping the metallic
how many
tracking
eggs do
streamer
you get a
with one
week?
made from plastic.
Good news is there's hardly any wind today. Bad news is
Yeah,
about
Resi,
40
thanks for the
degrees
5
colder,
months.
which means our mattresses are kind of frozen.
0. Wait, a
Nevertheless,
week?
we pushed forward
Don't trip.
On their prime, it
as I
does.
very
Oh, so you need
carefully
a
delivered the rockets
prime
to the new balloon
chicken.
launch site.
Send it.
Death them's 25 months.
We'll send it.
It's happening.
Should we see it? Oh yeah, I see it.
Chicken egg balloon.
Oh, there it is.
And while the whole thing looked really cool,
So we might be in trouble.
we quickly realized the balloon was rising at a slower rate than we anticipated,
We're already south and we're only halfway up.
which totally threw off the predicted trajectory. And so
Uh-oh.
after a few more minutes, we decided to manually drop the rocket because we were already way too far off course for the rocket to make up the lateral distance to the mattress using just the fins and gravity.
3, 2, 1, clicked.
So it's only a 5,000 foot egg drop. Lame.
Oh boy, that's not good.
And that's when we encountered the second problem of the day, as the fins actively forced the rocket into an uncontrolled death spiral.
Altitude is 1400, coming down fast.
It's spinning out of control. Oh. But did the egg survive?
Check the mattress just in case.
And since we had the GPS coordinates of the rocket, we headed out to track it down.
The real question is, what's the status of the egg?
Mark, I think I might have some bad news for you.
At which point we stumbled on an entire field of sitting birds, which is another opportunity I'm not gonna let just pass
Holy
on by.
shit. Wow, assholes scared off all the birds.
No egg.
The egg did release. The fact that this is out means the egg did come out, so that's good.
But despite that silver lining, the movable fins seemed to be actually forcing the rocket into that tailspin, which was surprising because Joe had definitely run through a lot of analysis and testing before coming here. So after conducting a thorough review of the footage and firmware, he was able to locate and fix a single rogue negative sign in the code that seemed to be causing all the control issues, which meant we were ready to give this one final try. We had run out of spare parts and spare
Hell
weather
yeah.
balloons, so regardless of outcome, this would be the final attempt. If we couldn't land the egg on a mattress from 10,000 feet up, we wouldn't have any hope of pulling it off, coming all the way down from space.
Phenomenal! That's nerdy space talk for everything is exactly as expected. I'm standing in the middle of the world's largest mattress, where hopefully the egg will be landing in like 45 minutes.
Let's
Otherwise, we're
go.
pivoting. And my new video is world's largest mattress.
So I'm arming the rocket right now.
The last step. All right, old girl, you're in for a ride. 3, 2, 1, let her ride, baby.
Looking good
There it
so far.
goes.
We're at 500 meters.
Now, in order for the balloon to hit the target mattress, for each launch, we'd started from different spots around Gridley, which raises an interesting question maybe you've wondered
PR
yourself.
56
How do
months?
big balloons
Hello?
like hot air balloons steer themselves? Or I guess even just know where they're going to land? And the answer is, computers know the wind direction and speed at every height as you go up. So on a given day, if these are the predicted wind directions and speeds, we would need to launch here to be directly above the mattress when we got to 10,000 feet. great, but how we know all this information is the fascinating part, because every day it's someone's job to launch 2 balloons like this into the sky at noon and midnight London time. But this is done in over 1,000 locations all around the world at those same 2 exact moments. And these balloons all have something called a radiosonde attached to them that measures things like altitude, pressure, temperature, and wind, and then they transmit the information back to the ground stations, which gets fed into supercomputers, and that's the reason weather and wind predictions can be so accurate. So 2,000 of these massive weather balloons go up every day, and then eventually pop and just land somewhere. And since they're transmitting a signal, some folks make a hobby out of just trying to track them down.
How close are we to the drop point?
Balloon release?
Balloon release. That's it.
And this time we were releasing right in the target drop zone, which was good news on one hand, but it raised some new challenges on the other.
Where is it?
Can't see shit.
400.
Gravity!
300.
You see something?
Altitude 98 meters.
I think we're down.
Everyone okay? That was exhilarating.
So we were
Where'd
much
the egg
closer this
go?
time, and we even managed to steer the rocket in the right direction just slightly.
We found
Yo,
it.
Giovanni, 6 months.
Egg?
No egg.
No egg?
Wait a minute.
It's
The egg.
Oh, did it
He
crack?
didn't make it.
I mean, it's not cracked.
So after 3 failed attempts,
But
we
they
still
know
seemed
where it
pretty
is at
far
least.
off from where we needed to be, which meant it was time for the ultimate phone a friend with my buddy Adam Steltzner, who you might recognize as this guy from when we landed Curiosity on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
He has a
Wow.
PhD from Caltech, and he's also the chief engineer for Perseverance and Mars Sample Return. And so after explaining to Adam what we were trying to do, he immediately
Look at his
spotted
face.
a fatal flaw in our brilliant plan.
And you're doing terminal guidance to something about the size of a house. How are you going to do that? How do you do that? I mean, I know how you physically do that. How do you not get busted by the FAA?
In other words, we were basically attempting to make a precision-guided missile.
Dude, there are thousands of
See,
people
that's what I
who've
was
done this before,
saying.
And they are sworn by federal law not to say a single word to you.
And to be fair, he raised a good point. The people who could help us actually can't, and even if we figured it out ourselves, the ethics of just slapping that how-to video up on YouTube are questionable at best. And so after a fruitful discussion with Adam,
But we release at about the height, and then we do a lobbing. The thing you start to worry about is heating. You might want to start with a 2-stage thing.
we decided to pivot, and instead of a precision-guided egg landing on a mattress in a small town, we would set our sights on a much more general egg landing target by heading out to the desert. But as part of the pivot, we completely scrapped our old design and spent a couple months designing and building a new system that borrowed heavily from the Curiosity landing, because we figured if it could safely put a rover on Mars, it could safely land an egg on Earth. So we would still go to space on a weather balloon, but this time the rocket would have fins that didn't move, and it would be 3 times as long and 4 times as heavy to guarantee we would get the egg to supersonic speeds on the way down. Then just like NASA
Holy
separates the cruise stage in the upper atmosphere and then uses aerobraking to
Yeah,
dissipate
isn't
a
it
bunch
still a
of the energy
missile?
and speed, we would separate from the back half
It's just
of the
not a
rocket about
precision
halfway
missile.
down after we'd already broken the sound barrier, and because this system now weighed much less, it would naturally aerobrake and reduce its speed to the new lowered terminal velocity. Then on Mars, the next step is the parachute deploy, followed by the heat shield separation, and we would follow in kind by launching our own parachute and then release our own nose cone, which would then expose our set of cushioning airbags, as you can see here, which we borrowed from the Spirit and Opportunity landings. It was intentionally ambitious and extremely complicated, but after a couple months of complete redesigning and building, we found ourselves in the desert feeling cautiously optimistic.